What's up again, guys? Brian here at 3TR, and I got another one of my own requested list videos to share with you guys today. And this time I'll be going over my top 5 favorite comic book novels of all time. Now, just to make sure that this list isn't completely filled and flooded with Batman novels, I decided that I'm only going to pick one novel for one superhero divided between DC and Marvel. So starting off with number 5 with my favorite comic book team of all time, the X-Men, I picked the Dark Phoenix Saga. The Dark Phoenix Saga is a really great novel in a whole for a number of reasons. Number one, it doesn't revolve around Wolverine. That's a plus. And I really like the idea of the X-Men team having to confront one of their own. Because obviously, for those of you that don't know, Jean Grey's body gets possessed by an intergalactic entity, and this really puts Scott Summers / Cyclops in a really tricky predicament. And I just like the overall art style, I like the overall use of characters, I like the dialogue between certain characters, and I think the ending does really kind of show you just how close the X-Men team are and just how devastated they would be to lose any member of their team. And, you know, hopefully if X-Men Days of Futures Past actually does a really good job, and maybe, you know, I would like to wish that maybe if Wolverine succeeds in his mission and, you know, he changes the future, maybe Jean Grey and Scott Summers will still be alive, and hopefully, just hopefully, I will get to see the fight I've always wanted to see on the big screen and see Phoenix take on Apocalypse, because that is going to be a monster of a battle, and that's why it's number 5. Going on to number 4 with my favorite individual Marvel superhero of all time, Spider-Man, I picked Death of the Stacys. The reason this is, in my opinion, my favorite of the Spider-Man novels is because, for me at least with my experience with Spider-Man, that's really Peter Parker's first great failure as Spider-Man. Some would consider that the death of Uncle Ben would be his first greatest failure because he decided not to stop that guy. But he wasn't, I wouldn't say he was Spider-Man at the time. And this is really Spider-Man when, he's doing his usual thing, and he really gets to see the consequences of his actions. It's a usual theme in comic books for heroes, is that even while they're heroes, that they will lose things along the way. And I think the death of Gwen Stacy really did show, the consequences of being Spider-Man. And it's just something that Peter Parker has to live with. Now, unfortunately, thanks to a couple of UK Twitter followers that like to spoil movies, I already know how The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is going to end, which is sad, but I'm still going to go see it, and I'm pretty pumped up to see it. But, I just think that particular storyline, it really just shows you what is at risk when you are a superhero. And that's really true of any superhero, despite who you pick. I think all superheroes have to experience that at some point, because that's really one of the key essentials of being a superhero. It's understanding that risk factor. And that takes me to number 3, and that is Wonder Woman. And the novel that I picked for her is Wonder Woman. I have trouble saying this. If I remember correctly, it's called Haikita or something like that. Please help me with the pronunciations if I get it wrong. And this story is really interesting, and if you guys haven't read this, you need to check it out, because I would really like to see this particular storyline actually turned into a live-action film. And a summary of what happens in this is that Wonder Woman takes part in this little ritual at Themyscira, where she's put in charge of this young kid. And unfortunately, this young kid actually then commits a crime. And then Batman finds out about this, and then he confronts Wonder Woman, saying, I need to take her in, and, because of Wonder Woman's ritual and her vows to protect this child, she can't let Batman do that. And these guys have a pretty decent fight, and spoiler alert, Batman actually gets his ass kicked, and he actually admits defeat, and he kind of turns to a little bit of a bitch, like pussy bitch. Like, he's actually on his knees, like, begging for protection. But I think what happens in the ending is pretty tragic. It puts Wonder Woman in a really difficult predicament of having to choose between, her duties as part of the Justice League, but being true to her vows as an Amazonian. And I think it's a no-win scenario for Wonder Woman. She's going to have to do something she doesn't want to do. And it's 2 things she doesn't want to do. And I think that's a very interesting story for Wonder Woman. And it's probably, in my opinion, one of the must-read novels if you are someone who wants to be a big fan of Wonder Woman like I am. Now we go into number 1 and 2, and for those of you that already know, it's going to be a mix between Batman and Superman. And as much as I would love to put Batman as number 1, I'm not so biased when I can admit that there is a particular Superman storyline that is superior to Batman. And that is why Batman will sit as number 2, and my favorite Batman novel is the Arkham Asylum story, A Serious House on Serious Earth. What I really liked about this Batman novel is that it's definitely different from all the other ones. It's not like your Nightfall or your Long Halloween, because what happens is that Joker takes over Arkham Asylum and Batman has to go into it by himself. And it's really the classic story of how is Batman going to survive a series of encounters, because usually Batman only takes on maybe one villain every other night, but having to take on several over the course of one night and having to save hostages, that is a truly unique story. So well that it actually incorporated into the Arkham Asylum games, and I think that it's more reminiscent of the first game, which is my favorite out of the set of Arkham Asylum games. And the art style is just unique. The use of different villains. I mean, they use villains that, you know, aren't really his usual rogues gallery. They're kind of some of the lesser known ones, and I liked that. And I really hope that some of those villains actually get some more exposure, because they're really interesting characters that have their own interesting story arcs on their own. And I just think that the overall psychological test that Batman has to go through Arkham, and he understands that, you know, this place is a very dark place that will affect you, and Batman is, you know, he's not immune to that kind of stuff. So to see him in a vulnerable state, surrounded by these villains that he has spent years taking on, that's a truly interesting story. And that leads me into number 1 with The Man of Steel, and probably not just one of the best Superman novels of all time, but probably one of the best comic book novels of all time. Obviously, it's going to have to be The Death of Superman. Was there any surprise for those of you that read comic books? There's no topping that. It goes over the death of Superman, and he takes on Doomsday, who is famously known for being the one person who's actually killed Superman with sheer brute force. No magic, no kryptonite, no cheap tactics. It's just head-on, full brute force, and he actually kills him. He doesn't put him in a coma state and allow him to heal faster. I'm looking at you, Superman Doomsday. That was wrong for you. But it's really one of the most iconic storylines in comic book history, because, like some of the writers have stated, the fight between Superman and Doomsday is not really this big story. It's just a fight scene. What happens, the story is what happens afterwards. You actually get to see what Superman's death actually does to the whole Justice League. You get to see the reaction. And that's really something that I don't really think any other comic book character could really embody. I don't even think anyone in Marvel would have that much of an impact on their world if they were to die. Whether you're talking about Captain America or Iron Man or even Thor, I don't think, despite, you know, their movie praise, I don't think any of them, if they were to die in their own comic books, would really have that much of a universal effect. I mean, that's just me. I mean, I've read some good Marvel stories, but just none of them have ever been able to reach the level of the Death of Superman storyline. And those are my top 5 favorite comic book novels. And I really would like to know, what are some of your guys' favorite comic book novels? Maybe you guys have read a couple of really good ones that I'm not aware of that I should really get my hands on. Please tell me your list in the comments down below. And if you like this video, feel free to like, comment down below, and please subscribe to keep track of me in my future movie, video game reviews, and topic videos like this one. And like always, thank you guys for watching. You're awesome, and I'll see you next time.